A huge storm is about to impact the United States, and this is going to bring some problems, including the return of severe weather, which includes the risk of damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes over the next few days. Additionally, a flooding threat could evolve over the next few days across the central and southern plains. And lastly, the end of this month and right around Thanksgiving looks like it's going to be cold for parts of the country, with the return of snowfall on the horizon. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And right now we have a low pressure system that is located in Nebraska and Iowa. And this is actually going to bring a sneaky risk of severe weather today back over in the lower Midwest and the Ohio Valley, where damaging winds and maybe even a tornado or two will be a possibility later this afternoon. We'll go more in detail on that here in just a moment. Back along the West Coast, we have a big storm system that is now making its way into California. Lots of moisture is surging up into the desert southwest right now. We even have a low-end threat of severe weather in Arizona today, where a brief tornado cannot be ruled out. Kind of a rare situation there today. This storm will make its way down into the southern plains over the next 48 hours, and it'll bring even more severe weather to areas like Texas and Oklahoma, and then eventually towards the Mississippi River Valley by Friday. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential over the next few days, and we'll begin with today, which is Tuesday, and we actually have a marginal threat of severe weather in place. This does include parts of the Ohio Valley, including Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri. The biggest concern for today will be damaging winds and also large hail, but there is a potential for an isolated tornado or two. And one of the biggest reasons why I am pointing out today is because I do think there is even a potential for an isolated strong tornado if all of the ingredients come together properly. We do not know if that's going to happen really until this afternoon. We have some convection out there this morning, and once that rolls out, the atmosphere is going to destabilize. And if it's able to destabilize fast enough, I could see there being at least a tornado or two. We're not really sure if that's going to happen, but a pretty favorable setup nonetheless for a few hours, and this is definitely an area that we need to keep a close eye on. And then as we go into Wednesday, the threat of severe weather will shift back to the southern plains. The Storm Prediction Center has a marginal threat for parts of Oklahoma and Texas, where more damaging winds, hail, and maybe a brief tornado will be in play. I don't really see Wednesday being that big of a day, to be honest, but this is something that we'll be keeping an eye on for the Dallas-Fort Worth area and also Abilene, Texas. And then as we go into Thursday, surprisingly, the Storm Prediction Center has no risk of severe weather outlined. I do think this will change in future outlooks, but we will probably see at least a marginal, if not even a slight risk of severe weather added for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas for Thursday. Damaging winds, some large hail, and a couple of tornadoes are likely going to be the main hazard. Now, one very interesting thing about today's severe weather setup is that it is actually very favorable for tornadoes. These are your significant tornado parameter values for this afternoon. It's not a very large area, but there will be a narrow corridor in our triple point area, which means we have a low pressure system, a cold front, and a warm front. So that is our triple point, and we're basically going to be monitoring storms that try to develop in southern Illinois and western Kentucky between about 2 and 7 o'clock. And if any storms are able to stay discreet and organized, there will be a potential for a tornado. And I would not rule out a strong tornado in this environment. It's not very likely because we will not have a whole lot of instability here with all the morning convection that's going to be rolling through. But if this atmosphere is able to destabilize fast enough this afternoon, we definitely need to keep a close eye on this area where we could see the potential for a tornado or two. It's a very short window though. We're only talking maybe 3 to 4 hours for severe weather before things really quiet down after sunset. So this is the timing for today. Showers and thunderstorms will continue to roll through this morning. By the time we go into the early afternoon hours, we'll be watching for the destabilizing environment back over here near the Mississippi River Valley to pose the threat again of a few supercells developing. I really only expect 1, if not maybe 2 discrete supercells firing by around 3 to 4 o'clock, and then by 5 to 6, notice how these storms don't look very organized, but this would be the area to watch for the potential for an isolated tornado, damaging winds, and also hail to the size of golf balls. And then by 8 to 9 o'clock, these storms will be pushing into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, where they'll be mostly just a wind threat, not much of a tornado risk by the time they get closer to Nashville and also into parts of eastern Tennessee. Now, beyond today's severe weather event, we got more to talk about because we have multiple other storms that are coming, including one that is going to be coming in on Wednesday and Thursday. So the storm system that's moving across the Ohio Valley, that's basically moving out by early tomorrow morning. There will not be much left of that storm system, but Wednesday afternoon and evening, we'll have to watch for at least some isolated severe weather, primarily in central Texas and southern Oklahoma, with an isolated wind and hail threat, maybe an isolated tornado during the late afternoon and early evening. Thursday, though, looks like it's going to be the main day of anything when it comes to severe weather and and the risk of flooding, because we'll have lots of moisture coming out of the Pacific and also coming out of the Gulf, and that's all going to meet into one centralized area, which is Texas and Oklahoma. So we will have plenty of rain and as well as some severe weather on Thursday. This is going to be basically an all-day sort of thing where some damaging winds, some spotty hail, and maybe a couple of tornadoes will be a possibility during the daytime on Thursday. And then by Thursday night and Friday morning, this storm system will continue to spawn the threat of at least some isolated severe weather across the Mississippi Valley. And then on Friday, this will continue to track to the east. It'll gradually weaken as it moves into the Ohio Valley. But before weakening, there could still be some very isolated severe weather in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, or Arkansas. And then rain will continue across the mid-Atlantic Friday into early Saturday. And then by Saturday and Sunday, this storm system moves out, and this is where things get a lot more uncertain. The European model here is indicating that yes, we could see another big storm by the beginning of next week, and that would be primarily across the southern plains where more severe weather would be in play. Now, on the other hand, the GFS model, which is one that we use very commonly on this channel, which is usually very accurate, does not show this storm system happening, or if it even happens, it wouldn't happen until Wednesday or Thursday. So some uncertainty does basically reside right now what's going to happen next week, but we'll definitely have to watch this closely, because if this were to happen, we definitely could see some more severe weather. And then by the very end of November, going right around Thanksgiving, we could have some very cold air coming out of Canada with high pressure dominating much of the country. But after this happens, there could be a possibility that we get one or two different winter weather events, whether those are winter storms or just some snowfall, are definitely going to be in play, I think, during the very end of November into early December. This is not a slam dunk. We don't know where the snow is going to happen, as this is still well over a week out from now, but this is a trend that we have to watch for closely, as there is a lot of model guidance right now that at least shows Arctic air in much of the United States around this time frame. Now, one of the biggest things that'll change over the next few weeks are the temperatures. Right now, we're mostly above average for the entire country. Very few spots are below average at this time, but as we go into the very tail end of this week and eventually into the weekend, again, nothing really going to change, but I do think things will begin to change by the end of November. This is when a lot of computer models have been hinting that we're going to see at least some sort of cold blast, if not some sort of Arctic blast. This would be coming right around Thanksgiving. This pictured here would be Thanksgiving. European model is still showing the potential for some very cold air around this time frame across parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. I do want to reiterate that this is not 100% certain, but there are trends have continued to show that colder than normal weather is likely around this time frame, at least across the northern tier of the country. And then as we go into early December, we will likely continue to see multiple reinforcements of that cold air with more strong storm systems that'll basically pull cold air out of Canada. So a lot of stuff to watch for during the very tail end of this month, but at least for the next week in the foreseeable future, things will remain pretty tame across the country. Now, we have a couple of big storms coming over the next 7 to 10 days, one of which will be happening just over the next 72 hours. That's going to bring plenty of rainfall to the southern and central plains. We're talking about a widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain from about Joplin, Missouri, all the way back through Kentucky. I do think we'll have some isolated areas across parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri that'll pick up upwards of 5 to 6 inches of rainfall. So get ready for that. And then as we go into the later half of next week and into early next week, that is when we could see a lot of rain in the southern plains. But it's all going to ride on that next storm system. And if that were to happen, we would not just be talking about flooding, but there would also be a risk of severe weather. It's all to be determined, but that is something we'll be keeping an eye on. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. And as a reminder, we do have merch at shopmaxvelocity.net. This is one of the best ways to support our channel and what we do here. You can check this out at shopmaxvelocity.net. It's also the top link in the description below. We also have a sale going on. You can see the details at the very top of the screen when you go to shopmaxvelocity.net. We have a lot of awesome collections out, including Happy Holidays merch, Supercell merch, and a lot more. So check this out, and we'll see you all again in the next video.